I want to welcome everybody back. I hope everybody had a wonderful holiday season, Christmas and all. I want to tell everybody Happy New Year. I hope it's very prosperous for all of you. And I hereby call to order the January 20th, 2021 Board of Adjustment meeting. And this morning, I'm going to ask Councilman Montoya to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please join me in pledging allegiance to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilman. Board members present, please answer when I call your name. I'm here, Jim Lamerson. Tony Teeters, Vice Chair.
Here.
Thomas Davis.
Here.
Mary Frederickson.
Here.
Mark Hockness.
Here.
Larry Meads.
Here.
James Myers. So we're going to have 6 members present. So for us to do something positive, we need 4 votes. Okay? I would ask that people turn off their telephones and their recorders and all those things that may interfere with our ability to transmit, because we are being publicized on local cable. Since some of our members may be attending by Zoom, everybody wishing to be heard, including the board members, are required to state their name prior to speaking in order to ensure proper recordation. Members of the public are required to state their name and their address for record so that we may know who you are and be able to contact you at a later date if necessary. Having said that, let's move right into what we need to go into. Bryn, I would like you to kind of lead this.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the board. Bryn Stotler, Director of Community Development. Just wanted to call to the boards and those members of the public that are in our meeting today to your attention that we have Mayor Phil Good with us, and also our new council liaison, Councilman Brandon Montoya. And I'd like to give him an opportunity to introduce himself to the board if he'd like to.
Thank you, Bryn. I just want to say that I appreciate the work you guys do, and I look forward to attending as many of these meetings in person as possible, just so that I can stay abreast of what you're doing and the topics that you're concerned with. If you have any questions before you leave today, I'll make sure that I get Bryn to give you my contact information so that you can reach out if you have any questions.
Thank you very much, Councilman. And it's a pleasure always to have you and any other council member, especially when the mayor decides that we're important enough to come out of his busy day and attend our meeting.
No doubt. Thank you.
Thanks for being here, Phil. Okay, Bryn. Tammy.
So, first item.
Tammy, don't forget to state your name.
Yes. I'm Tammy DeWitt, Community Planner at the City of Prescott. We have 3 applications today.
We have one item that's to pass the minutes from the last meeting.
Yes. Okay. So
the first item is to vote on the minutes from the last meeting.
Okay, did everybody have a chance to read the minutes from the last meeting?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any objections to what was presented to the board as minutes?
No.
Any alterations? Okay, with that, I'll entertain a motions to accept the minutes.
I make a motion that we accept the minutes October 21st, 2021 meeting. Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously, if I'm not mistaken.
did we get Mark and Larry on Zoom?
Aye for Mark Hokus.
Aye, Larry.
Thank you.
I felt the aye. I could hear it coming over the airwaves. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Chairman, members of the board. Tammy DeWitt, Community Planner, City of Prescott. Our first application on your agenda is a conditional use permit, CUP 21-009. The address is 827 5th Street, Unit C. The parcel number is 113-01061E. Land Development Code LDC Sections 3.9 and 9.3. The zoning is multifamily, medium density. The request is for a conditional use permit for a child daycare for up to 10 children. And the property owner is Clayton Hall, which we do have on Zoom to be able to answer any questions that you may have. So the request is a conditional use permit for a new home-based child care facility. In your packet, we did include the criteria for a home-based child daycare facility. It is a home-based business. They are permitted by the state. They are licensed under the state. This is under a first tier for child care centers under the state, which that first tier can go up to 10 children. But per our land development code for a home-based child care facility, they're only allowed up to 8 people. And this is allowed in a multifamily medium zoning district with a conditional use permit. Hold on a second. Kaylee, you have your hand up?
Hello?
Yes.
Hi, I did that just to get clarification on the votes. So lower my hand.
Okay.
I have, Kaylee, this is Michelle. I have the votes recorded and I'll get them to you.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. I just want to make sure there was no other issues. So this is a development criteria for a home-based daycare facility. It is a home-based daycare facility to provide for up to 5 to 8 people. It could be adults or children. In this case, it's going to be children. A home-based daycare facility shall be managed by the resident operator, the homeowner. To comply with all applicable state regulations, they will have to be licensed by the state. There's adequate provisions for access by emergency, medical, and fire. Fire reviewed this and had no concerns. And they shall provide an outdoor play area with a 6-foot-high fence, in which the applicant has done already. Here's a zoning map of the area. We have Merritt Street here, and you come up here to Whipple Extension, and the house is here. It is on multifamily medium density. And it is a single-family residence at this time. Here's the imagery of the property. You come up here to access the house. The play area is on this side of the property, on the east side, and there's adequate parking on the west side and along the street here for people to drop off the kids. This is a site plan that was submitted. They do have the privacy fence here and secure play area, which is required per state law and per our land development code. Here's a picture of the property that shows the 6-foot fence, and this is the play area. This shows the parking area where there's adequate parking for people to drop their kids off and for the applicants for their residential use. Here's another view of the property with the fence. And here's a picture of the play area that meets the state requirements. This was sent out to all the property owners within 300 feet. We did get a letter, which I did an email that I did provide for you today, from the property owner to the back here to the north, who has concerns with the child care facility impacting their everyday ability to enjoy their property, with children being on the property. So here's a suggested motion. Should you, for your vote. That concludes my presentation. I'm free to answer any questions, and we also have the applicant on the Zoom to answer any questions.
Thank you, Tammy. Prior to going to the public, commissioners?
This is Mary Fredrickson. I just had one clarification. The original, or on the agenda anyway, it indicated the CUP for up to 10, and then in the discussion, there was 6 to 8. Which way would, if we approve this,
So we're
Will
going
be limited to 8?
to 8 people because their state, when they're applying for the state, it goes up to 10 people for the first tier type of childcare that they have. And then it goes up from there for different levels that you can apply for them. They're just applying for the first tier, which is up to 10. But per our land development code, they can only have up to 8, and they don't meet the criteria for a daycare center, so,
Okay.
which is more of a commercial type use in a commercial area.
So although the agenda item references up to 10, it would actually be up to 8.
Correct. And then a suggested motion is for home-based childcare for up to a maximum of 8 children.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for your question. Are there any other questions from the commissioners?
Larry has his hand up.
Thank you.
Yes, I do. Tammy, is that condition that it's home-based, is that because it's a residentially zoned area rather than commercial?
Even for the child care center, the more commercial, it is also allowed in a multifamily medium density with a CUP, but it has to face a major street, and there's other development criteria, which is not the intent of the applicant. They're just doing a home-based child care in their home, so that is limited to the 8 children. They don't meet the criteria to do the other type of facility that we have in our land development code.
Can you tell me if the applicant can move forward with this with the maximum of 8?
Yes, I did talk to the applicant, and they were okay with that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Any other questions? I just have kind of a question. This meets all the requirements within the code.
Correct.
Do we have legal counsel here today?
Yes, we do.
And if it meets all legal requirements within the code, and there's no public health and safety issue, what are the ramifications if you know, it almost seems to me it's a property rights issue too, because by code they have a right to use their property as it's zoned.
So as a conditional use permit, the use is allowed. The idea with the conditional use permit is to add any criteria like hours of operation, lighting restrictions, things like that, that may address any impacts to the neighborhood that they may be. We only got the 1 letter of opposition to the property owner to the north. You know, if we, let me pull up this. So this is the property owner that wrote the letter of opposition just opposed to the child care facility as it is. But the play area is on this side of the property, and they have a 6-foot fence to try to mitigate any impacts to that property owner to the north. So
there's been definite efforts made to address the property owner to the north issue.
we just got their email a day or 2 ago. So, but that's something that's required with the, that's required for this type of use, is to have that 6-foot fence there for the child and per the state requirements.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions from commissioners? And I'll go to the public.
Yes.
Or is there anybody from the public that would like to address this before we see what the commission wants to do? Yes, sir. Come to the front to the mic. State your name and your address.
My name is Robert Regalado. I live at 130 Whipple Place, the property in question right behind the proposed daycare center. My statement is I know it's zoned for that, per the zoning laws. I think that I'm pro-business, but when it infringes on our quality of life with sounds bouncing off walls, outdoors, it's a fairly quiet neighborhood, and with up to 8 kids, you know, kids are noisy. And that will just be a nuisance for us and affect our quality of life. And we've been there over 17 years. And for a new business to pop up, you know, in the last year or two, then it just doesn't seem right, like the zoning codes are right, like they're to protect us and our quality of life issues. You know, the zoning laws, I can understand if it was a commercial area, but that's more residential, and I chose specifically not to move next to a schoolyard because of that reason, because of the noise. So I just want to, I know it's legal, just want to voice my opinion on that. And, you know, state the issues we have with potential noise, because a wall is not going to stop noise unless it has soundproofing or some kind of buffer. It's just going to bounce off the walls outside and go right into our windows. So that's my point. Thank you, guys.
Thank you for addressing the commission.
Larry, you have a question?
Yes, I do, Tammy. Thank you. A few, and in the event with this, if this were approved and there were some noise issues, what can this gentleman do that was just speaking?
They can call and state their concern, and we can go out and investigate and work with the property owner and see if there's a way that we can mitigate any noise concerns.
So the noise ordinance would apply.
But that's not a noise complaint of kids playing. It has to be amplified.
I see. Thank you.
You're welcome. Mark, you have a question?
Yes, my question is for the citizen who spoke in front of the board. Have there been any issues with noise as of today? In other words, any pre-existing noise issues?
Not this winter. Usually things are locked up and people are inside during the winter in the cold.
I think he's asking specifically from this property.
No.
No, there has not. And we also have the applicant that may want to address this too on the Zoom. Clayton, if you have anything to add.
Yeah, good morning. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Terrific. Clayton Hall, property owner at 827 5th Street, Unit C. My partner, Tanisha, is the one who is the owner-operator of the facility, or proposed. And we have constructed the fence, and I know that she's very sensitive to our neighbors, many of whom we know personally, trying to make sure that if there is outdoor time, that time is limited. And right now she has already had kids. I guess the city calls it just a kind of a babysitting enterprise up to a certain number. So the property is already in use for what it's being proposed for the conditional use permit. So I spoke with her on a couple of occasions about this. I believe she also was able to log into the Zoom, so she may want to speak more specifically about it. But we, as I said, are in communication with our neighbors and have tried to make sure that we took all the steps that we could, including how she manages the time outside and what time the kids are out there and for how long, so that we try to minimize the impact on neighbors.
And Tanisha, if you want to unmute yourself, you would be able to speak.
Hello, yes, my name is Tanisha Williams, home address 827 5th Street, Unit C. And normally, like the gentleman who lives to the north of us said, it's been winter time, so the children have mostly been in the house, but the weather has been nice and they've been outside here recently. And it's normally only after lunch and before nap. So no one's out at 8 o'clock in the morning. They have lunch around noon, and then they play at max for about an hour, maybe an hour and a half if the weather permits. And then they come inside for naps and they spend the rest of the time inside. So it's a limited amount of time that they're outside playing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
This Tony Teeters. Tanisha, what are your normal hours there? When are the kids leaving there during the day? And is it weekends and weekdays?
Yes, so we're Monday through Friday. Drop off begins at 7 a.m. and the latest for pickup is 5:30.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Tom Davis. Tammy, are there others? How many of these types of childcare permits are there? Do we know?
No, I do not.
Are there others in the neighborhood?
Not that I know of. Larry, you had a question?
I do, Tammy. I didn't get that letter, but I've heard from the gentleman, so that's fine. That suffices for me. But I have a question on the letter that Mr. Hall and Ms. Williams submitted. In the second paragraph, it says that they were currently applying for a state license, and they were advised that working with the municipal planning and zoning was the first step. Is that correct?
Yeah, Clayton again. That is what I was told directly from the licensing administration with the state when I called. And also we have a fairly lengthy state licensing handbook, I guess I'll call it. It has a number of steps and checks. And I was advised both in person, well, at least on the phone, I should say, and also in that handbook saying that, you know, whatever you plan to do with the state, you have to check with your local, city codes and everything first to make sure that it's okay with them. So that's sort of the first step in the process when it comes to the larger issues, state licensing.
Thank you.
This is Mary Fredrickson. I have a question for Tammy. If the applicant succeeded in getting the state license, would that allow him to go beyond what the city code allows? Could they then go up to the 10 children?
No.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any more discussion or comments? I kind of find it refreshing that there's children in Prescott. I'll be very candid. We have been here a long time, 40-some years, and we all kind of went gray, you know? So might not be so bad to hear some children every now and then. Anyway, I'll entertain the pleasure of the board.
Anyone make a recommendation? I'll put the recommendation. Sorry, I'll put back over. Whoop. Here you go.
Thank you. This is Mary Fredrickson. I'll move to approve CUP 21-010 to approve a home-based child daycare for a maximum of 8 children at 827 Unit C, 5th Street, Prescott.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second on the floor. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed indicate by saying aye. Hearing no opposed. On Zoom, did I hear anything on Zoom that was negative? Okay.
No.
So it appears that it's approved unanimously. Is that correct, Ms. Tammy?
Yes.
All right.
Let me get my. Okay. Our next item, let me get the other one up. Why am I? Because it's down here. This is in my way. There we go. Okay. I'll get my stuff together today. And we have the applicant for this is also, I guess I was Ricky here? Yeah. Okay, thank you, sorry. Okay, agenda item number 2. We have a CUP for 603 Miller Valley Road, CUP 21010, APN 113070013, Land Development Code sections 4.7 and 9.3. The zoning is business general. This is a request for a conditional use permit for a tattoo business. The owner is Passerata LLC. The applicant is Ricky Henderson from Bold Love Tattoo. So again, this is a request for a CUP for a tattoo parlor in the business general zoning district. This is located in an existing building, and you also did see a request back in April 2021 for a CUP for the same suite for a different tattoo parlor. The CUP runs with the applicant, so anytime they change, then we have to go through this again. Here is the aerial of the area is on Miller Valley Road. We have Fair Street up here with the Fries. So it is in the commercial corridor. A redeveloped commercial area with adequate parking. Here is a closer imagery of the property. All the parking is in the back here. All this parking is for the center over here. The property is zoned business general, which does require CUP for a tattoo parlor. We are looking at our land development code since we have seen a bunch of these recently, and we really don't have any conditions that we've been adding to them. So we are looking at amending our land development code to not have this process for tattoo parlors in these zoning districts, but it's something that has to go still through our planning and zoning commission and be ultimately approved by city council. We're hoping to get that moving forward in the next couple of months, but it is something we are looking at to try to address this because we have been processing these and most of them are in commercial centers or commercial areas and don't really impact residential neighborhoods like we used to see. So just to give you a heads up about that. Here's the suite in question. There was a tattoo parlor here before, but now it's vacant. And here's the center here. We did send notices out to all the property owners within 300 feet. We did not get any letters of opposition or any concerns. And this is a floor plan of the suite there. There's not any requirements or any TI requirements for this suite. And so if you choose to recommend approval or denial, here's a suggested motion, and I'm free to answer any questions, and the applicant is here to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Board? Any questions?
Prepared to move on with this one.
I'll let you do that.
I'll make the motion then. I move to approve a CUP 21
Well, Mark has a question. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Mark, you have a question?
Just wanted to clarify.
Okay.
I recall this was about a year ago or so. We had some discussion on hours of operation. And if I recall properly, the board had no issues with the previous special use permit. Just wanted to verify that with the city.
Yeah, correct. There was no issues or anything imposed onto the last use, the CUP. So we were just bringing this forward with no recommended stipulations or conditions.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for your clarification on that. Okay.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
It's okay now? Okay, so I move to approve CUP 21-010 to approve a tattoo parlor in a business general district zoning district located at 603 Miller Valley Road.
Second.
I have a motion and a second on the floor. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 All those opposed indicate by saying aye. Not hearing any, it moves forward unanimously.
Thank you. Okay. And our third and final one. This is a variance request, V21008, a variance to Article 6, Section 6.12.5.A.1.H, permanent on-site signs of the Land Development Code to allow for an increase in the allowed 32 square feet menu board sign to allow for a 46 square foot menu board sign for a new Culver's restaurant on an approximate 1.89 acre parcel. The zoning is business general. The parcel number is 106-21008N. It's located at 3125 Willow Creek Road. The owner is Williamson 5 Real Estate LLC, and the applicant is Laura Martinson. So again, this is a request for a variance to allow for a menu board sign to be 46 square feet rather than the 32 square feet allowed. The restaurant is currently under construction in the business general zoning district, and it is allowed use and meets all the development code criteria. There are 2 drive-through lanes that for this property, and it is screened from the residences to the south by a 6-foot screening wall, and there is an elevation difference too. So here's the zoning map, Willow Creek Road here. We have apartments over here. We have residences to the south. This is a commercial corridor overlay for this district, so they did have to meet all the commercial corridor in regards to screening and for landscaping and for colors. But we do have other commercial development to the south and to the north of it. Here's the site in question, the imagery. As I said, we have these apartments here. We have residences here to the south. This is a Circle K here, which is proposing to expand our understanding to this adjacent lot next door. So we also see an expansion of that Circle K sometime in the near future. And here's another view of the site. We do have these residences. Along the south border here, there is a 6-foot screening wall, but there is some elevation changes here. These residences are a little higher than this level ground, but it does meet the screening requirements for this property. And it's already under construction and permitted and allowed to be there. You did get a letter of opposition from this property owner here to the south, who had concerns about not having any input for the restaurant in question. The only thing we're looking at today is the menu board sign. This was sent out to all the property owners within 300 feet, and we just got the one letter questioning the project in question, the whole project. As I said, it's under construction right now. As you can see, we have the apartments higher up here, the elevation change there. And back here, you can kind of see the screening wall here. These are a little bit, the properties back here, a little bit higher up in elevation. And this is lower down to the ground to the road level. Here's the site plan. So we have Willow Creek Road here. We have Lakeview Drive here along the apartments. The access is right here. The ingress and egress is right here. And then you come around to the 2 drive-through lanes here. And then you have 2 menu board signs here. They are faced away from the residences, which are required. So they'll come in here and you can see the menu board as you order. And there'll be 2 of them. This is the proposed sign. Culver's has a pretty extensive menu, and this is their typical signs that they have at their restaurants for their chain. So they're asking to be able to have their typical sign that has all their menu options on there. There was some confusion about how we measure signs. So we measure signs by the size of the whole sign and not just the little panels. So on their site plan here, they do show that if you just measure up all the individual panels, it equals up to 30 square feet, but we actually look at the whole sign at the size of it. Like I said, this was sent out to all the property owners within 300 feet. We only got one letter that had concerns about the restaurant and the restaurant itself, and not the signs. So that concludes my presentation, and I'm free to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. Board, do any of you folks have any questions? Remember, we're not here to discuss the restaurant per se. We're here to discuss that sign.
And Larry, do you have a question?
I do, Tammy, a couple of them. It appears to me that there is a turn lane there in Willow Creek Road in that area. Is that correct?
A center turn lane?
Yes.
I believe there's a barrier through there, it looks like. Oh, maybe there's a turn lane through there.
I don't think there's a barrier there. There's no island there. I drive it frequently.
Okay.
And my second question is in the land development code book that I have, the table 6.12.5A, 6.12.5A says the allowance for a menu board is 24 square feet. You say 32? So is mine out of date?
I'm going to double check, but anyone else have any questions? Mark, you had some questions.
Yes, this is Mark Opus. Is the applicant with us today?
Yes, they're on Zoom, and let me move them over.
My specific question is, are there alternatives to deviating from the existing code?
So, for the applicant?
Yes.
Okay. Just to answer the question that Larry had, drive-through lanes may each have one menu board not exceeding 32 square feet.
What page is that, Tammy?
That's the section, the H underneath there. So if you look under 612.5 A H A1 H, drive-through lanes may not exceed 32 square feet.
Do you have a page number for me?
Well, I don't know if mine's right. Mine says page 176.
Okay, well, we're on different page criteria. But that's not relevant since they're asking for a variance from either size.
Yes, they're asking for 246 square foot signs.
And I'll say this, that why I think this should pass is though they could have two signs on each side, I agree with the applicant's logic that would slow down the drive-through traffic, and then we might have issues with traffic backing up. So I prefer the request as it's written.
And we also have the applicant, Trey Watts. Do you want to add something to that?
Well, yeah, I just wanted to, let you guys know I was here to answer any questions and appreciate you hearing the request. From our standpoint, agreeing with the board member, these signs are not made for advertisement or gaining clients. It's purely guest education in the drive-through lane to speed up and reduce traffic congestion and whatnot. Culver's does have a diverse menu, so the board is a little bit larger in order so the guests can see all the options. And it is the whole purpose of this menu board is guest education and operation through the drive-through efficiency, not for advertising, so to speak, to gain more clients.
Mr. Chairman, I have questions for the applicant and some comments. This is Tom Davis. You have about 825 stores. Is that correct? Based on the staff report.
At the time of the report, that was probably correct. I believe they are over 945 at this point.
Is every single one of these stores have the same menu board?
This is the brand standard. I'd say 95% of new stores get this board placed. There is you can do a custom application. It does create some hardship for the franchisee because it is not the brand standard rolled out across the board. There's custom layouts, there's custom panels. It does add complexity and some hardship on the franchisee as far as cost and upkeep compared across the board compared to the rest of the franchisees across the United States.
So there's been some accommodations in the past that limit the board size in other communities.
There has been. It's not the norm. I will say the majority of stores have this board.
I'm just curious why this hasn't come up before the development, the actual building permit process.
We didn't see this till they applied for the signs, which are separate. They're separate permits. So that's when we caught this.
Okay. Do we have other? One of my concerns is setting a precedent, and do we have other drive-throughs that exceed the sign limitation?
So variances are based on the individual properties. I don't know of any other. Sometimes when we see more signs on a property, they do a comprehensive sign plan, which goes through the Planning and Zoning Commission and City Council. Because this was just one sign, we did the variance process. But they have each individual property is looked on their own merits on the hardship based on that property. The hardship with this property is we do have a franchise. The signs are in the back. They aren't impacted to the residential neighborhood or they meet the code requirements for the placement of the signs. The only thing we're asking about is the size of the sign. So like I said, most of these times we have multiple signs where they have a big sign package, but all the other signs met code requirements. This is the only one that was in question.
Do you know how, roughly, I'm the applicant, do you know roughly how much percentage is dine-in versus drive-through?
It's a good question. Of course, COVID has drastically affected this. Before COVID, it wasn't quite a 50-50 split. It was more of a 60% drive, 40% in-store dining. Nowadays, that is skewed up much higher. Most of the stores, I know some of the stores up in the north they're still not opening their lobbies. I don't know what the exact plan for this franchisee is. I'm sure he is planning to have in-store dining, but it's more elevated to probably 70+% drive. That's also a reason last year, the change for a double drive-through has been implemented. Culver's had not done that pre-COVID. They just had a single drive-through lane, but because of the focus and the change in consumer habits, that's what's really driven them to a dual lane function that you see that this store is going to have because of the majority of business shifting to the drive option rather than in-restaurant dining.
Mark, you have a question?
A question, and actually it's kind of a common question together. As I review this, I, in my own mind, believe there are options, and I wanted to get the gentleman's opinion on the options. Changing the size of the fonts to fit things on the menu board, having a scrolling menu board that electronically shows one menu and then scrolls to a second menu. Are there options that the applicant can work with?
So Culver's as a brand does not have a digital menu board system-wide. So the reason why this is standard and because we are asking for this board is just the reason for the franchise. This is the brand standard. These panels are rolled out to all 900 plus stores. So there is not a digital option currently available in the franchise. And then also to change the size of these panels would create an additional hardship upon this one franchisee because this is standardized they're produced in mass so if you go to a store in Prescott, Arizona, or a store in Missouri, where I'm from, you're looking at the same menu board from place to place.
And then a follow-up for staff, based on the applicant's comments here, are Prescott's sign limitations dramatically out of the normal to the rest of the country?
No, this is the first request we've had for a larger sign. They do have more of extensive menu than some of the other restaurants, but some of the others have also gone to the digital menus.
Thank you.
Larry, you had a question?
Yes. Is this the same sign that is at the restaurant in Prescott Valley?
It looks like the same sign and about the same size.
Thank you.
This is Mary Frederickson. Just a comment. I note on the site plan that the signs are going to be pointing towards the Circle K lot. Do I understand that correctly?
That's how they show right here, yeah. So when you come into the drive-through lane, you stop here, you have the menu board right here to look at.
Okay, so there's residences to the south won't have a direct view of the menu board.
And there's also a 6-foot screening wall along that property too.
And if I understand correctly, the height of the board is essentially the same height as a screening fence line?
Correct, it's a 6-foot.
And beyond.
It's 6'3", the total height.
Right, and there's some elevation up to the screening fence. So the menu board is not going to extend above the screening fence.
Correct.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or comments?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
may I? Bryn Stotler, Director of Community Development. I just wanted to make a comment. This is not that unusual for a national brand to have a standard that they request be able to be utilized at a franchisee. I think when we see significant increases in the size of signage, the thing that we're most concerned about is visual blight. We don't want to increase the amount of just visual busyness for drivers along commercial corridors. This is not the case with these signs. They are very specifically purposed for the drive-through lanes. I think Board Member Fredrickson's point is very well taken that the boards don't point toward Willow Creek Road where there's a lot of traffic. They're not creating an issue for interior circulation because the people who are looking at this have come for that purpose. I just wanted to make that comment. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a comment. My concern again is like setting some kind of precedent, and also, I understand the franchise situation, and it doesn't go to the scale of what my experience has been, but like for example, McDonald's goes to certain communities and wants the golden arches. They don't get it, but they still establish the store there. It might be a hardship. They are viewed as a hardship, but it's something that a franchisee should do their due diligence on ahead of time. And I just have a hard time with setting a precedent of making a menu board 50% bigger than what's allowed in Prescott.
Well, it's only asking for 14 square feet more because you're allowed 32 square feet. And variances don't set a precedent. Like I said, each one's looked at on their individual hardship of that property. So we don't set precedents with other variance approvals.
I just have a problem with it. I mean,
Legal department, you stood up to the microphone probably for a reason.
Again, it is to kind of reiterate what Tammy just said as far as precedents. It does not set a legal precedent. As you know, variances exist for the sole purpose of deciding on the merits of each individual application and whether they're worthy or not. So I wouldn't worry about setting a legal precedent to the extent you have issues with it. Otherwise, that's fine. But I wouldn't get too wrapped around the axle on setting a legal precedent that if we approve this, every sign that comes in larger in the future is going to be automatically approved. You just have to consider them on a fact-by-fact basis. They're all their own individual case.
Well, thank you for your comments, Counselor. My question would be not precedents. It would be we've held everybody else that's opened up businesses to the sign standard. So we've held other people to a different set of standards. So now are we showing any sort of preferential based on whatever the plan might be for the corporate structure for somebody else where we didn't do the same thing for McDonald's, or we didn't do the same thing for Arby's, or we didn't do the same thing for blah-de-blah-de-blah? That would be my question.
And my answer to that is that's why you exist.
And I understand that.
You find the facts and you apply the law and you make a decision. And that decision doesn't go to the council. It's a binding decision. And if anyone wants to appeal, it goes straight to the Superior Court. So, the Board of Adjustment is a quasi-judicial board. It does findings of facts, it makes conclusions of law. So you're going to look at this against the variance standard and see if it's appropriate.
Thank you for that clarification. I fully understand the consequence of our decision. So,
Mark, do you have a question?
Yeah, I have a comment. I think some of my fellow board members are having the same thought processes I'm going to describe here. There are alternatives. This is not a situation where gainful use of the property is impacted. I am concerned with the concept of setting a precedence, but more so, as a fellow board member said, you must do diligence before you proceed. And I will not be supporting a motion to proceed because there are solid alternatives to allow the landowner to use the land effectively.
Larry, you have a question or a comment?
I do. I want to point out that on page 2 of our packet, if you look at the bottom, compliance with required variance criteria, and if you look at number 3, I think it addresses the concerns I'm hearing, because this does not establish a new precedent. It only addresses this particular location. And any other issues, any other applicants that have signs that exceed the allowed amount will come before this board.
Correct.
I'd also like to say that during my time on this board, we have had several other sign variances, and they haven't affected request later. They were looked at their own merit, they were decided on, and then we go to the next one. So we have had a couple of 3, I don't remember how many. I think one was like a wine bar and some other stuff that I remember. But these were given a variance, and it didn't cause an issue on the next request.
It's Mary Frederickson, just speaking in support of the variance. I think it's significant that the process has already provided for the placement of the sign to not impact either the traffic flow on Willow Creek or the residences to the south. And I think it's a significant hardship to the franchisee to have to modify or undertake some kind of steps to get out of the plan for Culver's nationwide. So I think it's a particularly appropriate variance, as well as Councilor noted that it does not set a precedence. The board's requirement is to view each individual circumstance as it comes up on its merits by itself, not reflecting back to anything else that was or was not approved by an earlier board. My only thoughts.
Thank you for your comments, Mary. Any other comments?
Well, I think for clarification from my point of view, and I'm not necessarily opposed to this, but I do think that I understand the legal difference between setting a legal precedent and also a planning and conceptual thought process. And I just don't see, in reading the staff report and the justification, that there's a gigantic justification for doing a bigger sign, a much larger sign. It's, you know, every community has got a little bit different, a little bit different style, a little bit different character to it, and I hope that franchises do adapt to the community standards. So that's my concern. I'm not necessarily opposed to this particular situation. It just sounds to me that the justification is not strong. My opinion.
Thank you for your comments. Any other comments from the board?
Larry?
I'm sorry, I don't know who was that speaking. Is that Mr. Davis?
Yes, this is Tom. Yeah. Thank you, Larry.
Okay, thank you.
Did you have a comment other than what that was, Larry, your question?
No, I just didn't know who was speaking.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, moving right along. Does someone choose to make a motion?
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chair. I move to approve V21-008 to allow for the menu board signs to be up to 46 square feet each, noting that there are 2 signs.
Mary Frederickson, I second.
We have a motion and a second on the floor.
Due to the possible split vote here, we were going to do a roll call vote. It was suggested by George Worley to do a roll call vote.
Okay.
Do you want to do that, Michelle?
Okay.
Thank you.
Excuse me. Roll call vote. James Lamerson.
Aye.
Tony Teeters.
Aye.
Thomas Davis.
Aye.
Mary Frederickson.
Aye.
Mark Hoekness,
Nay.
Larry Meads.
Aye.
Okay,
There are 6 ayes. The motion carries.
thank you. There was one nay.
Mark said nay.
Mark said nay.
Oh, sorry. There are 5 ayes and 1 nay.
So the motion carries 5-1.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any more orders of business?
We have no staff updates? No staff updates.
No staff updates.
Sorry, yeah.
All right.
Family updates or anything?
Everybody get a new dog?
All right, well, thank you all very much for being here. Okay, sometimes we have to do things sometimes that some people won't like, but that's the way it works. Thank you very much. This meeting's adjourned.
Geez, Jim, we're married. Of course we have to do